I still remember the moment the laughter erupted across the lavish office party. My fiancée, Lila, stood at the center of it, her wine glass swaying in her hand as she delivered the punchline of her joke.
The joke was about me.
I mean, can you believe it? He fixes pipes for a living. My fiancé, a plumber, she snickered, the crowd around her chuckling along. While the rest of us are closing deals and signing six-figure contracts, he's dealing with clogged toilets. The words hit me like a freight train. I had come to this office party to support her, proud of her promotion at the real estate firm she worked for. I'd even taken the evening off, rescheduling 2 emergency calls, to be by her side. I stood there, drink in hand, the music dulling as my ears rang from the sting of her words. Lila had always been ambitious, polished, and obsessed with appearances. I had admired her drive, thinking we balanced each other out, my hands-on, honest work ethic complementing her corporate hustle. But hearing her reduce my career, my passion, to a punchline was like a slap across the face. My friend Marcus, who tagged along since he worked maintenance for the same building, leaned in and muttered, "Damn, man. That's cold." I forced a smile, trying to brush it off, but the damage was done. The glances, the sneers, the subtle looks of pity, they burned into my skin. It wasn't just the joke. It was the realization behind it. Lila didn't respect me. Maybe she never had. The rest of the night passed in a blur. I stood quietly at her side as she worked the room, laughing and chatting with her colleagues. Every time she introduced me, it was the same patronizing tone. "This is Jake, my fiancé. He's in trades." Always that hesitation, like she couldn't bear to say the word plumber out loud. I'd built my business from the ground up, starting as an apprentice right out of high school. Long hours, scraped knuckles, late-night emergency calls. I'd worked hard to build a reputation for being reliable and fair. My clients respected me. My crew looked up to me. But the woman I planned to marry? She saw me as a punchline. By the time dinner was served, I was running on autopilot. I nodded, smiled, and pretended not to hear the whispers. But inside, something was breaking. This wasn't the first time Lila had made comments about my career. There were always little jabs. Asterisk, it's cute how passionate you are about pipes. Asterisk or asterisk, you must love not having to wear a suit to work. Asterisk, I'd brush them off, thinking they were harmless. But tonight, in front of her entire office, the truth was undeniable. She was ashamed of me. After dessert, I excused myself and stepped out onto the terrace, the cool air relief from the suffocating atmosphere inside. Marcus followed, hands shoved in his pockets. "You okay, man?" he asked, concern etched into his face. I exhaled slowly, watching my breath cloud in the night air. "Not really. You gonna let that slide? What she said in there?" I shook my head. "I don't think I can this time." And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about one party or one joke. It was about respect, something every relationship needed to survive. And without it, love didn't mean much. The night dragged on, each moment more uncomfortable than the last. Lila, unaware or uncaring of my silence, paraded me around like an accessory, introducing me to her colleagues with that same condescending tone. "This is Jake, my fiancé. He's in trades," she'd say, the hesitation in her voice loud and clear. The word plumber never passed her lips again, as if it were something dirty. At one point, we stood near the bar, and one of her coworkers, a tall guy named Evan, chuckled after shaking my hand. "Man, Lila talks about you like you're some character from a sitcom. The blue-collar fiancé." I thought she was exaggerating. I forced a smile, but my patience was thinning. "Well, Evan, if you ever have a burst pipe at 2 in the morning, that sitcom character might be the only thing standing between you and a flooded condo." He blinked, caught off guard by my tone. Lila quickly interjected, laughing awkwardly. "Jake's just passionate about what he does. It's cute."
Cute.
I downed the rest of my drink and stepped away. It wasn't just the words, it was the way she said them, like my entire livelihood was a novelty. The same livelihood that paid half our rent, funded vacations, and covered the fancy dinners she loved so much. By the time the speeches began, I was standing near the back of the room, arms crossed, watching her soak in the praise. Lila's boss, Mr. Caldwell, an older man with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, took the mic. "We're here to celebrate Lila's well-earned promotion. She's sharp, driven, and knows how to close a deal," he said, nodding toward her. The crowd clapped, and Lila beamed. And, of course, success isn't just about the office. It's about the support system you have outside of it. My ears perked up. Mr. Caldwell smiled in my direction. "I hear Lila's fiancé is one hell of a hard worker himself. Honest work, honest living. That's what keeps the world running." The crowd gave a polite clap. I nodded in acknowledgement, but Lila's face tightened. She hated moments like this, when someone highlighted my work as something valuable, not something laughable. Her hand squeezed my arm, nails digging in slightly, like she was trying to signal me to smile and play along. I pulled my arm away. The moment passed quickly, but something inside me shifted. This wasn't just about pride, it was about dignity. I had worked too hard and built too much to stand beside someone who belittled it all for social points. Later in the evening, while Lila chatted with a group near the dessert table, Mr. Caldwell approached me. "Jake, right?" he said, swirling the whiskey in his glass. "You run your own shop, don't you?" "Yeah," I nodded. "Small business, but growing. I've got 3 guys under me now." "Good for you," he said with a slight smile. "Don't let anyone make you feel small for that. I started out selling vacuums door to door. Now I'm running this circus." I chuckled. "Thanks. Means a lot." Lila appeared beside me, wrapping an arm around my waist as if staking a claim. "Mr. Caldwell, I hope Jake isn't boring you with pipe talk." He raised an eyebrow. "Boring? Not at all. There's more honesty in fixing a busted water heater than in half the contracts I sign." Lila's smile froze, and I realized then how deep her insecurity ran. It wasn't about my job, it was about appearances. In her mind, success was shiny, polished, Instagrammable. And I didn't fit into that curated image. The final straw came when she turned back to her coworkers and, thinking I was out of earshot, joked, "Well, at least when I marry him, I'll never have to pay for a plumber."
The group laughed.
My heart didn't just sink, it shattered. I stepped forward, voice steady but cold. "Actually, Lila, you won't have to worry about that at all." She blinked, caught off guard. "What are you talking about?" I reached into my pocket, fingers brushing against the cool metal of the engagement ring I'd carried for months. The same ring I'd carefully chosen, thinking I was building a life with someone who valued me. I held it out, palm open. "I'm done," I said quietly but firmly. "If you can't respect what I do, you don't respect who I am. And I'm not going to spend my life being your punchline." The room fell silent. Eyes darted toward us, murmurs spreading like wildfire. Lila's face turned crimson. "Jake, stop being dramatic. You're embarrassing me." I let out a hollow laugh. "Embarrassing you? You've spent the entire night tearing me down for cheap laughs. I'm just returning the favor." With that, I placed the ring on the table beside her untouched champagne flute. "Good luck finding someone who fits your perfect picture, Lila. I'm done being part of the frame." I turned and walked away, ignoring her sputtering protests. The weight that lifted off my chest was almost immediate, like I'd been holding my breath for months, without realizing it. I walked out of that office party with my head held high, heart pounding in my chest. The cool night air hit my face as I stepped onto the street, the noise of the party fading behind me. I half expected Lila to chase after me, to demand an explanation or try to smooth things over, like she always did when her words cut too deep. But she didn't. Marcus caught up with me near the curb, his eyes wide.
"Damn, Jake."
"You really dropped the mic back there." "Had to," I muttered, rubbing a hand down my face. "I've let her disrespect me for too long. Tonight just flipped a switch." He nodded slowly.
"Good.
You deserve better, man." I thanked him and headed home, the ring no longer weighing down my pocket. Each step away from that building felt like shedding another layer of doubt and insecurity. By the time I got to my apartment, I wasn't sad. I was relieved. But, of course, the relief didn't last long. The text started pouring in before I even unlocked my door. Lila asterisk asterisk Jake. What the hell was that? Asterisk. Lila asterisk you embarrass me in front of my entire office. Lila asterisk asterisk we need to talk. You're overreacting, asterisk. Overreacting. That word alone made me shake my head. How typical. She'd made a fool of me all night, but I was the one overreacting for standing up for myself? I didn't respond. By morning, her messages had shifted from anger to pleading. Lila asterisk asterisk babe, I'm sorry. It was just a joke. You know I didn't mean anything by it, asterisk. Lila asterisk asterisk please, let's talk. I love you, asterisk.
Love.
The word felt hollow now. Because love without respect was like a house without a foundation. It would collapse the moment life got rough. I spent the next few days focused on work, throwing myself into jobs like they were therapy. Replacing water heaters, fixing leaky faucets, installing a new kitchen sink for an elderly couple who offered me homemade cookies as payment. Honest work, honest living. Work that made a difference, even if it didn't come with corner offices and cocktail parties. Lila kept calling, but I ignored her. I needed space to think, to figure out if there was anything worth salvaging. Deep down, I already knew the answer. One evening, Marcus swung by my place with a six-pack. You hear the latest? He asked, cracking open a beer. I frowned.
About what?
Lila. Word around her office is that Mr. Caldwell called her out in the Monday meeting. Said, and I quote, if you can't respect the people who keep the world running, you've got no business leading a team. I blinked, surprised. Caldwell said that? Marcus grinned. Yup. Apparently, he used to work construction in college. Said people like you taught him more about hard work than any corporate job ever did. The satisfaction that bloomed in my chest was undeniable. Not out of spite, but because it validated everything I believed in. My work mattered. I mattered. Later that night, Lila showed up at my apartment, looking tired and stressed. Jake, she said softly, standing in the hallway like a stranger. Can we talk? Please? I crossed my arms. Talk about what, Lila? How I'm supposed to laugh along while you tear down everything I've built? Her eyes filled with tears. I was stupid, okay? I got caught up in appearances and forgot what really matters. I was proud of you, always, but I let other people's opinions cloud my judgment. I studied her, searching for sincerity. Maybe she meant it. Maybe she didn't. But the damage was already done. Lila, I said quietly, love without respect isn't love at all. You didn't just make fun of my job, you made fun of me. And I can't build a life with someone who looks down on the very thing that makes me who I am. Tears spilled down her cheeks. So that's it. I nodded.
Yeah.
That's it. She left without another word, and for the first time in a long while, I felt truly free. The days after I ended things with Lila were quieter than I expected. No more frantic texts, no surprise visits, no mutual friends trying to mediate. It was as if she'd finally understood that some lines, once crossed, couldn't be uncrossed. At first, I thought the silence would feel empty. But it didn't. It felt peaceful, liberating even. I threw myself into work, not just to stay busy, but because I genuinely enjoyed it. There was something satisfying about seeing the results of my labor. A bathroom restored after a bad leak, a family's kitchen sink running perfectly again, an old house's plumbing system brought back to life. Honest work. Real work. Work that mattered. One afternoon, I was finishing up a job at a new office building when I got a call from an unknown number. Normally, I'd ignore it, but something told me to pick up. Hello. Jake? This is Mr. Caldwell. That caught me off guard. Hi, sir. How can I help you? He chuckled. Call me David. Listen, I heard through the grapevine that you're running your own plumbing business. I've got a few properties, both commercial and residential, that could use someone reliable. Think you'd be interested in a long-term contract. I almost dropped my phone. Wait, you're serious? Dead serious, he said. After what I saw at that party, it's clear you're not just good at your job. You've got integrity, and that's rare. I like working with people who stand by their principles. I didn't even need to think about it. Absolutely. I'd be honored. That contract changed everything. Suddenly, I had more work than I could handle. I hired 2 more guys, expanded my services, and even started planning for a small office space instead of running everything out of my garage. Life moved on.
And it moved up.
One evening, a few months later, Marcus and I were having a beer on my balcony, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. Funny how things turn out, huh? He mused. If Lila hadn't run her mouth, you might still be stuck with her, chasing approval from people who don't matter. I laughed, taking a sip of my drink.
Yeah.
Sometimes losing the wrong person clears the path for the right opportunities. Speaking of which, I'd recently started seeing someone new, Elena. We'd met when I fixed the pipes at her family's cafe. She didn't care about titles or appearances. When I told her I owned a plumbing business, she'd simply smiled and said, "So, you're the guy who actually keeps the world running." That was the kind of person worth building a life with. One day, while checking in on one of Caldwell's properties, I ran into Lila. She was coming out of the building, her expression tight and tired. "Jake," she said, clearly surprised. "Lila." I nodded politely, but didn't slow my stride. "Wait," she called after me. "Can we talk? Just for a minute." I sighed and turned around. "What's there to talk about?" Her gaze dropped. "I got laid off last month. Company downsized, and they kept the people who treated others better." I blinked. "Caldwell let you go?" She nodded, shame coloring her face. "He said leadership isn't just about numbers. It's about how you treat the people who support the work." Guess I finally learned that lesson just a little too late. There was no satisfaction in seeing her like that, just a quiet understanding that life has a way of humbling those who forget the value of others. "I hope things turn around for you," I said sincerely. She gave a weak smile. "Thanks, Jake. You deserved better. I see that now." And with that, we parted ways for good. As I walked back to my truck, I couldn't help but feel grateful. Sometimes, the hardest decisions lead to the best outcomes. I'd lost a fiancé, but gained clarity, self-respect, and a future built on my own terms. And honestly, I wouldn't trade that for anything.